Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here with you. New faces now on the desk, some familiar faces to our concurring viewers. It's your boy OG Susano with Mick here on the desk in the booth. It's good to be here, Mick. How you doing?
I'm absolutely ecstatic, man. I'm ready to go ahead and get right back into the CCL desk. I'm so excited to be here. Obviously missed a little bit of yesterday, but availability, we all know the college scene. We know how crazy it is, and honestly, at the end of the day, so long as you get yourself in some Call of Duty action, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we've got a great matchup tonight. We're going to be covering the rest of the matches for you. So we're going to start with this one right now. UNCW, the University of North Carolina, Wilmington Esports versus Old Dominion at Old Dominion University. It's going to be a great matchup with some great things. So let's get into the head-to-head so we can find out what we've got for us tonight.
And obviously, you can already see those names. Probably for a little bit of a short-term thing, we could probably just say UNCW because that's going to be a heck of a lot easier to go by here for the night.
Yeah.
But already going ahead and looking at the stat lineups for both these squads, you can go ahead and have them laid out right in front of you, in front of your face. You see the season record of both these squads already sitting at 6-2, 7-1. Not too shabby for either one of these squads, but when we start getting into the nitty-gritty, start looking a little bit more long-term and seeing how these series go, it's looking a heck of a lot better for Old Dominion, seeing that obviously UNCW sitting at 1-2 in that control. I want to note that Old Dominion hasn't really sat there in touch control at all.
Yeah, it's kind of odd to me. I wonder what happened between the introduction of control till now, if they were even able to even get any reps in.
Yeah, and I think they most definitely have. I think that's going to be really shown in scrims and things like that. And sure, we may not really have it. I think it's just a missed stat line there, but it's not that big a deal. We still know the Old Dominion have themselves the upper hand here. Looking at their hard point, sitting at 11-2 is going to be outstanding. Their search and destroy going to be just as equally outstanding. I mean, just across the board, we're expecting a strong start from them. Even if they do get around to that control, they're probably going to sit there and have a pretty darn good run at it as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a bit of an adjustment, but like you said, maybe it's just the stats. I don't know. What do you think? I like that S&D stat right there, 8-1. Holy moly, that is really good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, looking at these two teams and how you can already sit there. I mean, ODU especially, we're probably going to be harboring on them a lot, knowing that their record here is just outstanding from what you can look at. I mean, 7-1 just generally, but that 8-1 and 8 is S&D, as you said. Not really losing too much, not really sitting there having to set the pace of the game, feeling really comfortable. But to go ahead and speed things up a little bit, we got to know who we're dealing with on both these squads, and obviously we're going to start with the home roster to see what UNCW has to bring to the table, at least in terms of player counts.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting roster that we've got here tonight. We've got Alpha, Fatality, D-Taddy, Percy. It's going to be an interesting roster indeed. Hopefully I pronounced that one right at the end, or is it Percy? We'll definitely have to, wait for the intermission for that one.
Yeah, and I think obviously I've heard a couple of these names before, and we know we have some double downs here in the COD scene where a couple of these players are running the same gamer tag, but obviously I've heard of Percy a couple times, Alino, and Fatality as well. So these two, I'm really expecting them to go ahead and step up tonight. I think I've heard them around the scene, and at least her name's called out a couple times here and there, maybe on broadcast. But I mean, just overall looking excited to see what they have to provide, at least in terms of their team discrepancies. But obviously enough with them, we don't have too much to really talk about besides the action they got to bring. So we're going to go over to the other side as well, see what the away side has to offer at this Old Dominion squad that we've been hyping up so much about and already just mentioning their record.
Yeah, what a great record. Let's find the players who have caused it. It's going to be Revan, Nevermind, Noodles, and Roach. I've definitely noticed that Nevermind character. He's going to be one that I'll be looking out for here in this roster.
I mean, most definitely, you look at all four of these players, and they're going to be something you need to keep your eye out on for. Knowing Old Dominion, how well they've sit there and performed thus far in this season, I mean, they're all going to be outstanding in their own regards. We're going to see how they really contribute into every single aspect of a team, where they get their synergy going, where they go ahead and get their flow into the map, and whether or not they go ahead and kick up in certain areas, and even then, whether they sit there and fall back in certain areas. That's kind of what we're going to have to keep our eye on for, because they really just don't have too many mistakes that we've seen. But sitting there mentioning the rosters, mentioning everything, we're going to come right back to us to sit there and talk a little bit more about what they have to provide, and obviously keeping your eye on Old Dominion here tonight. But UNCW able to go ahead and possibly get some kind of a setup threshold going on now to also get Old Dominion to that 2-loss threshold, because as things are looking so far, CCL, sure, a lot of people have some complaints about the game state, but there's definitely been no complaints in terms of these matches we've seen thus far, at least in terms of this season. So many upsets to come through, so many teams that we expect to just be absolutely dominant across the board, and somehow finding a loss or two within the first 3 weeks. So it's pretty crazy to see, and I'm excited to see whether that old streak continues here tonight.
Yeah, I think so as well. You know, talking about these rosters and these teams and what we're going up against with, you know, I know we like to hype up Old Dominion and, you know, UNCW clearly being the underdog just in terms of stats.
Yeah,
I think definitely it's going to have to be that S&D for me from UNCW. If they're going to try and bring something into it, it's going to have to be the S&D. But talking about these game modes, let's look at the maps that we've got tonight, our roadmap, if you will.
and obviously, I mean, it's going to be laid out. It was already kind of there in the bottom in that little intermission we have, but instead we get it brought up in the big screen now. We're going to have ourselves a Hardpoint Tuscan, a Search and Destroy Berlin, and a Control Gavutu. So those things are going to be guaranteed, and then we're going to go right back to Gavutu if we need it, and then S&D on Tuscan. But, I mean, everything panning out is going to come down a lot to just a lot of diversity. Going ahead, finding yourself some pretty strong SMG players for that Tuscan. Going ahead, relying a little bit more on those snipers and those assault rifles for the likes of Berlin. And then Gavutu, obviously, you can sit there and be a little bit more diverse there as well. I feel like there's a lot of leeway, knowing, especially if it goes around to that hard point where each kind of side of the map favors a different kind of play style. So I want to see the adaptation. I want to see the teamwork really come to fruition. I want to see everybody really go ahead and give their best matchup they can.
Yeah, one thing about Gavutu, in my opinion, it's just such a linear type of map that there really isn't too much creative freedom. You know, you have your two long lanes and your middle lane, which is very linear. You know, it's what we're used to in Call of Duty. But I know I personally would have been a little bit more comfortable, you know, if I'm going up against such a stacked team, because we did get to hear that Old Dominion are 2-0 in Control. So clearly they have the reps.
Yeah. I mean, I really wouldn't doubt it. I mean, looking at the record, obviously, if you're going to get to that kind of place and you're going to sit there and close out these series, you need to be winning your Control. So that was to really be expected, especially knowing these last 2 weeks when we went ahead and introduced it. But, I mean, everything coming out for both these squads, I mean, everything that we've already stacked up, we got to sit there and see how it stacks up here on the get-go. And Tuscan's going to be that first map we want to discuss, the first map we're going to be going to, and they're on Hardpoint. I mean, looking at the way these teams are going to rotate, at least from P1 to P2, that's going to what I'm going to keep my eye on there off the get-go to see who really has a stronger hold across the map, who can find themselves getting to different areas of the map a little bit more efficiently, and finding possibly those little roadblocks, those kind of, I would say, speed bumps on the road to set for the other side of the squad to see what could happen and how you could find yourself some free kills and possibly get some spawn resets to make the opposing side job that much harder.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm questioning about this map, these map picks, is, you know, no Bocage at all. I wonder if this team is a little bit more centered on, you know, a more balanced roles of a 2-2, you know, ARs and 2 SMGs, but definitely a bit of an interesting one. I don't know if these teams really are, or really, I want to look at those picks and bans later on when we have our downtime, because I really want to see which side is it that just doesn't believe in, you know, getting scrappy with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I mean, getting scrappy is going to be the name of the game, at least for Tuscan, knowing that that map is probably going to be the most close quarters we see out of every single one of them. Knowing that Berlin, you sit there and especially in Search and Destroy, find yourself dealing with snipers sometimes. AR's really just excelling on that map, especially with the long lineups you have towards these bomb sites. And Gavutu, same exact thing. You find yourself up there in that nest towards the top of that boat there on P2. I mean, that's going to be just a massive slaying spot where you can just keep your eyes on everything, especially when you lap around back to Hardpoint. But instead, we're going to be going back to Hardpoint. We're going to be staying on it at least. Already on this first map is Tuscan, as you can see this beautiful cinematic we got laid out. This is where we're going to go ahead and find the stomping grounds, see where we can get ourselves a massive lead for at least one squad or the other, or even then go ahead and have that little respectable handshake to see who's going to go ahead and whether or not Hardpoint's going to be that close of a matchup or whether or not it's going to be a stop for one side or the other. And it all starts right here.
Yeah, this is where it's going to be decided. So now let's hop in with the action getting hot. So we move into P1 immediately right off the bat. You already see a nice little 4-man setup. Great pick from Noodles to open up the kills here. But you do see immediately it's Revan's AR work that was the common denominator there that won them that battle. Even that close quarters one.
Yeah, and even then, a great start for him, but we can't really sit there and focus too much here on P1 because it also takes a little bit of time to rush yourself onto site, see if you can get yourself a hole. But even then, we saw the speed come out, we saw the aggression come out, we saw the slays come out as well for the side of Old Dominion that had themselves a quick little 18 points there, but it's not too much to concern yourself with. UNCW able to go ahead and bite back, find themselves some time on the hill. They're looking to go ahead and find some rotations around or at least get a hold on the side of the map, but that's going to be hard to do when you see some frags coming through, and never mind, also finding a kill of his own towards his own teammate.
Yeah, unfortunately, the nade not really being in their favor, but Old Dominion going to be the overall winner of that hill, 20-11. But look at that rotation. Clearly, UNCW are ready to go. Something that I've learned from yesterday casting the matches was that really, Tuscan, if you're getting that early hold, the initial, you really will win the game. Even if it comes down to a stalemate of slaying, just that initial rotation is going to get you that win.
Well, even then, just as an initial player, when you see how many corners there are on this map, how many walls there are to keep cover of every single one of these players, you can go ahead and play a little bit scrappy. You can play like a rat, find yourself in angles that you're not really going to be expecting as the opposing side, and pick up some extra time, or at least contest things in the meantime for the rest of your team to set up. But when we're talking about setups, UNCW definitely having the upper hand there, at least when it comes around to P2. Already get themselves on site looking for a crossing. You see the exchanges coming through for at least both sides, but with UNCW already having the majority of heal time on this one, going ahead, giving up this last 15, they're not really too concerned about it. Knowing that Old Dominion's not going to go ahead and reach that tie, they're already going to set up here for P3, and even then, Roach is ready for it, able to find one as well.
Yeah, and you do notice that also UNCW are up right now, currently winning that rotation, but right now it's a three-man front on the side of Old Dominion. Apparently a player dropped, but as per our rules here in the CCL, you keep playing that until an official decision comes out. So right now, as we watch, just, you know, players from the side of Old Dominion trying to play to their strengths of, you know, collaboration here, with the pick from Revan being ever so essential. And with 3 men versus 4, it's a bit of a hard one to try and go into.
Yeah, you can already see these players looking to go ahead and hold out whatever they can. I mean, UNCW not really having too much of a differential right now. Already going ahead being stacked up on that side, but regardless of a player differential, Old Dominion is still finding ways to slay out and make sure that the difference doesn't even matter. If you drop enough players, 3v1, 3v3, 3v4, it doesn't matter. If you find the kills, your 3 is still going to extend on top. If you're that much confident, you're better. And you can already see the retaliation come through. UNCW able to go ahead and find themselves come out on top here a little bit, grab a little bit more time on that hill, and double things up almost, as they're probably going to reach that 89-point threshold. But it's not going to be 90. Old Dominion's not going to be beat up too much as they're already on the rotation here looking for P4, but with some frags coming here on the edge, Alpha's already looking for a cutoff.
Yeah, Alpha does have some good information, but players will spawn up towards that back fountain of the last hill on previous. So with now UNCW breaking that 100-point threshold, Revan hops into the side. Alpha, he's ready to go here. He does see Nevermind, great killer there. Immediately picks up the second, looks for the third, and Fatality is going to be able to assist him on that one. And you still have those players spawning out towards that back of previous, so you can immediately just push out maybe, but it looks as though we're going to have a bit of a horizontal line here to defend this site.
You most definitely are, and even then, UNCW kind of having a little bit more of an aggressive hold on this P4 site. You see so many players looking to hold towards the back or go ahead and line themselves in the middle of the map to go ahead and create somewhat of a roadblock on both sides of the field, at least to hold those spawns, but instead, UNCW just playing a little bit more aggro. Everybody just holding down the side as much as they can, set up some crossfires, and that may not even matter as Infamous finds 2. Finds a great little bit of a route to get themselves onto that P5 and making sure to take some players down with them as well. Not to fall yet, but still, you go ahead and you know that some of those players are still going to be around that church area, looking to rotate around the map. Go ahead, the spawns are going to come from the other side, but it doesn't matter because when you see them pushing up, when you see Old Dominion holding things down, they're doing a pretty good and darn job for how many players they got.
And you do see the fight in right now. Nice little trade-off. Percy's going to be the one to win that one. So, 53 to 145. Old Dominion, unfortunately, that man count being a bit of a struggle here for them. And right now, Alpha, he's going to be coming into the site. This is the player that, you know, I'm glad that even though we might get a full replay, it really has shown us, Mick, who are the pop-off players that we need to, you know, expect for when the series resumes.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, we're going to be talking about some highlight players right now. Obviously, Infamous is going to be that main man that we're going to discuss. I mean, already sitting at 20 and 11, going ahead, just stacking on top of sites, winning every single fight, and then also just getting around the map so efficiently. Not really having that many time on the side or anything because, I mean, when you have yourself a man down, you're just looking for kills. You're looking to fluff that KD. You're looking to go ahead and get this warm-up in, hoping that you're going to find yourself that replay, as we do see in the rulings that we are going to get that full replay to make sure everything's tied up because it wasn't late enough into the match to really warrant that game. But I mean, once again, maybe I mean, as we go ahead and at least see how this match is continuing, because we don't have anything coming out just yet. We already see Infamous still going off. 21-12 against probably the highest slayer on the other side is going to be Alpha, sitting at 12-9, not really getting as much in terms of that slaying department, but still getting a heck of a lot more points on the side.
Yeah, and you do see right here immediately that fourth player just bolstering that defense for the side of Old Dominion. Going to be great help, but you do have the players in the church right now. Revan, like he said, infamous Revan, the man himself. He's 23-14, 27 seconds on the hill. He's definitely someone we're going to have to look at through this whole series and just analyze the impact that he's having right now, because it is such a close one. Even with that player coming back, it still feels like it's a winnable game.
Honestly, I think we can look at the chat, and the returning player made word to say, hold up, we're bringing this back even though it was a 3v4 for the majority of this, so let's see how this pans out a little bit longer. And I don't blame him if you can sit there and come back from something like that. Already holding down so many kills here in the top.
Goodness gracious.
Finding a two-piece. Noodles now on a 5 spree, able to go ahead and pick up that glide bomb as well. Right back into the game, says, look, I'm not going to die at all. I'm going to be the first one to pick up a streak, and we're going to keep this show going.
This is kind of insane. I think this is the first time this has happened before. Yeah, and right now you immediately see it's a 40-point game right now. It's very close indeed, and you do see a bit of a 3 down coming in, but rotations looking to be for the side of Old Dominion. You do have Fatality deep in the spawn. Alpha, fortunately, not able to win that fight against Noodles, and yeah, this is unprecedented, Vic.
It most definitely is, and I think it shows the rights of Old Dominion how they've sat there and had themselves such a solid season so far, and they're definitely looking to go ahead and follow through with that. But as you already see P3 coming up here, Old Dominion set up for it. D-Taddy able to go ahead and set up a little bit, but looking for some slays on the outside, trying to really go ahead and inhibit what's going on. But as you can hear, a glide bomb maybe up in the air, and it comes down, not finding any players, and zapped Alpha. That was actually his, able to find one there on a Noodle, so that's going to clear up the side a little bit, but it's still only a 30-point game now. A massive differential to come up for Old Dominion, able to have that fourth player now to really make that differential and really step things up. So now, as we see UNCW approaching that 200-point threshold, they're actually going to be halted almost immediately as we see Old Dominion to just double down.
Yeah, nice little two-piece there from Roach to be able to open up the site, so they'll be able to get a bit of this time. Alpha does get the kill in the mid. D-Taddy comes in for the flank. Very nicely done. 170. So it looks like it's going to be a 200-point threshold for the side of UNCW. And Noodles, he's back in it. He's 8-4 already, and with 48 seconds on the hill, he's back to work. There was no rest break for him. He immediately got back on his rig and just got to work.
He most definitely did. You can already see if he only gets himself 2 more kills now, he's already going to be outslaying Persia on the side of UNCW. So that's going to be a little bit of a stinger to some of these UNCW guys that say, come on, man, we can't let him hop into the lobby and be going off just like this. So you can definitely see the momentum picking up for Old Dominion right now, but even then, that's not going to matter too much. It's UNCW is the one on the site. Sitting at now 216 to 178. They're ticking up even more time, and they could possibly end the game on the side alone if Old Dominion doesn't step up. But when you look at that kill feed, when you see nothing but white to green left to right, they're going to go ahead and find themselves a full clear and able to possibly pick up this point differential to make it even.
Yeah, and right now they're getting very close, like you said, closing the distance. Noodles runs just into the site, gets one. Revan's going to be able to help him out with those other 2. So now, yeah, we do get to that 200-point threshold for the side of Old Dominion. But you do say Fatality with his strafing run as well. Revan does have a glide bomb, so these streaks will be a big factor as we get in right now. But a nice little 4-for-1 trade. Old Dominion, it looks like they're going to be able to take the lead.
Oh, they most definitely will. I mean, with a couple seconds here to get themselves that lead, now sitting at 218, we have seen a comeback officially out of Old Dominion, and Infamous is running away with it as well, able to find 2 there on the edge to hold it down even longer. Calling in that glide bomb, giving the intel to the rest of his team, saying, look, they're pretty far off. You guys just go ahead and settle down. Make yourselves at home, because now we're sitting at 230 to 5 to 218 with 35 seconds left on this hill. We can end it right here, right now.
Oh, we most definitely can with 10 seconds left. Roach wins that fight. Now, Percy, being the last man to contest the hill, jumps in, looks at the wrong angle. 245, 218. We're having a bit of a fight towards the window, and there you go. Roach wins that. They win it with a 3 to 4 man vantage for the most of the game.
And obviously, we're going to get word that we don't need to replay that.
No
Dominion
replay.
ain't beat up about it. You find yourself a win, and you come back from that. Noodle says, you know what, boys, let's keep running this. I can step up. I can play the game where need be. I can bring on the stat line of 13-8, still outslaying Percy, who is there the entirety of that match, saying, Don't even stress it. We're already up one in this series.
What is the mental on these guys? What was that? To be down 3v4, the score literally just not in your favor at all.
Yeah.
Hey, it's no problem. You're looking at your boys across the aisle. Hey, we got this. Noodles, load that thing up. Let's line it back up.
He said, automaton, we automatically gonna get ourselves a dub, because the way he sat there and came explosively into the round, automatically on the get-go, finding that first spree of the entire game, already setting a new standard for everybody else on the field. We didn't see a single streak come out until he introduced himself into that game. Then everybody else said, look, we can't let this new guy now come into the block and really be stepping on our stomping grounds. This isn't okay. Everybody else starts bringing out what they need, but it's a little bit too little too late at that stage for UNCW, because they've had themselves a pretty good fight. They were able to find themselves some pretty good rotations, get some pretty good setups, but when you had that 4-man versus 3-man, we just didn't see that big gap really sit there and form and really elongate, because, I mean, Old Dominion, to go ahead and constantly be at least relevant in that fight, really sit there and set the tone for that fort to come back in.
Yeah, and as we talk about how these players perform, let's hop into the stats to see just how we were able to witness one of the most unprecedented games ever. Oh my goodness, you immediately see Noodles 13-8. He had already outslayed Percy, who had been in the map for the whole game.
And even then, I mean, another thing to look at, though, is that hill time. 1:13, coming right back in saying, look, if the one thing we're slacking is hill time, great. I'll slide myself right in where need be. I'll grab that hill time. I'll back up Roach, who's been here the entirety of this time, and grabbing so many kills, literally averaging almost the same amount of kills per hill as everybody else in this matchup. So, I mean, that is a lot to really set for the rest of your squad, especially for Noodles there to say, look, I can step up. I can go ahead and fill whatever role need be. Sure, I'm on a site and I have an automaton, but that doesn't mean I'm disfavored in these fights. I can still make myself relevant. I can still get these kill streaks. I can still go ahead and set up the rest of the team for the success. So a great way to get themselves through that first map to say, look, let's rally around this. Let's set things up, because now we're going into SND, where we've seen Old Dominion have almost an undefeated record besides one map.
Yeah, and so as we leave our home of Tuscan, we head on to Berlin for a search and destroy, Tuscan being a very favorable outcome for the side of Old Dominion, 250-218. Oh my gosh, I feel like just the stat line doesn't even do this story justice. It really doesn't.
It doesn't. I can completely agree with you on that. I mean, we are obviously kind of a little bit confused there, but I mean, we're not really worried about that too much as things go forward, because now S&D, we got to think about how this really sets up this map. I mean, the last one, sure, it was great and all, it was awesome, but now coming to S&D, this is where things really have to step up. We have to see UNCW go ahead and really bite back, make themselves relevant in this series. Once again, as we saw the scoreline in that last map, they got to sit there and have that relevancy. They got to be a fighting factor in terms of the series. They got to sit there and at least get a point on the board to make sure they can get themselves somewhat of a sweep territory, or at least a fighting chance. And S&D being on Berlin, looking at the two players who are the ARs for the side of Old Dominion, that's going to be really hard, looking at how well and how present they were in every single fight, left and right, just doing their job where need be.
Yeah, the ARs will really be a big factor here. And with UNCW going up against Old Dominion, who are currently 8-1 in Search and Destroy, this is going to be a bit of a fight. And especially after such a heartbreaking loss that first map. Yeah, this is the regain is going to be essential, and they're going to need to be shooting on all forms on this map.
They most definitely will, and I think it comes down to whether or not you can find that aggression being on the attacking side. And if it's on UNCW's sake, you better start winning those attacking sides, because time in and time out, we see defense step up. We see usually a majority of the rounds being won by defense here on S&D, especially on Berlin, where the map is so large. You're just playing it slow and steady, looking for at least one pick, and even then, in the meantime, you're just saying, whatever. Let's wait for a bomb to go down, play for retakes, because then we know exactly where to set up on this map, unless somebody goes for a flank, which isn't really too out of the realm of reality, but we never really see it too much. So I want to see whether or not we can get some holds, whether or not UNCW can really capitalize on that, find themselves possibly 2 kills getting onto a site to make that post, that retake, that much harder for Old Dominion. But in terms of defense, I think they have to hold themselves some pretty aggressive corners, some pretty close corners, and make sure to find whatever frags they can and use all that utility in their hands, the stuns, the frags, I mean, whatever they can to go ahead and get at least a bit of intel to be working off of.
Yeah, the intel going to be a big one here, especially that util usage. With a map like Berlin, with so many nooks and crannies, and with the middle selection area being just such a a big point of interest for ARs. It's going to be huge, and I hope to see we get a couple sniper shots here at the beginning. Maybe early strategy from UNCW or from Old Dominion, but we'll have to see right now as we hop in to this ever so exciting map 2 on Berlin.
Yeah, so right here off the get-go, you can see a little bit of influence there towards that B site from the attacking side. Want to get that bomb down as quickly as possible, and you can already see the answer coming out from UNCW. You know that right there on the outside, Fatality's going to be looking for that side, and he does get a sight line on the player, but can't exactly find the shot, so that elongates the bomb to go down, but Noodles finds the first blood there towards the center, making things a heck of a lot easier for Old Dominion.
Yeah, and you see right there, Noodles, nice pick onto T-Daddy, and gets a second one, but Fatality, nice angles, able to just circumvent a power there, but Alpha from the top line gets a big one, and Noodles does realize he's getting shot, and there you go. It's infamous Revan with the sniper here, getting some big picks. 2v1. Fatality does see Noodles, wins that one, so it'll be a 1v1 with the sniper, but infamous Revan does pick up the MP40, so this is going to be an interesting one.
Going ahead, having that dual kind of lineup to where you can find yourself to win in close quarters and long quarters, but with only 28 seconds left on the timer, you can't really get yourself across the map unless you do it instantaneously. If you find yourself into a gunfight, you better win it. You better do it pretty aggressively, and there it is, infamous. If anybody's going to do it, he definitely can with that first frag, and that first round on the board for Old Dominion, starting off in the attacking pretty strong here.
Yeah, Old Dominion, great show of aggression, like you were talking about earlier. And that was a pretty nice sniper shot. Unfortunately, we were not able to, look at how it went down, but I'm definitely excited to see as they hop in towards the defense now, because you remember you were saying before, if you're able to take an offense, these defense players, they're not going to be able to have too much chances to pop off.
Especially with the lineups, you can already see Infamous able to go ahead, grab himself towards that B lineup, looking exactly where I would find most players sitting. Just play whatever you can, get long, and even then, get scrappy if you're Roach. Find that first initial trade, get that first blood. But if you're UNCW, you sit there and fight a little bit harder. Already finding 2 players down for the likes of Old Dominion, one of those players being a sniper on the outside, having to possibly find another weapon to really make some relevancy and a fighting chance here to get onto that side. You're just hoping your teammate can back you up in that fight. At least find another kill. Go ahead and create some space. Go ahead and throw that utility out to see what intel you can grab and what corners these players may be sitting in to find that kill.
Yeah, right now we do see that the bomb was planted from UNCW. So Revan's going to be coming into the back. Nice shots. Immediately snapped on him. D-Taddy going to be going for a bit of a tactical retreat here. Noodles does see Perzo. And immediately Revan gets that kill. So that's going to be able to give him the defuse.
And that was such a fast retake here for Old Dominion, just perfectly executed. Infamous going ahead, stepping up, putting that sniper rifle away and saying, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're close or you're long. I still have a pistol as a secondary. I still have something to fight with, and I can still come out on top without that much better. And even then, the guy to step up in the last round, able to go ahead and follow through that momentum, especially going ahead, following up, picking that MP40, bringing the aggression on the side as Noodles can get that defuse. A perfect retake here for Old Dominion to set themselves up for that second round, knowing they can win both sides of the field now. Things are looking a little bit more tough here for UNCW.
Yeah, UNCW have had a bit of a tough one right here at the beginning, but, I'm not going to count them out just yet, but you do see immediately a 4-man push onto B site. So this is going to be great. 4v2, that, Old Dominion have a great opportunity here to be able to get a pick or two and then just overtake the site. But Fatality, realizing the info has been given, now has to wait for some extra reinforcements, but everybody seems to be locked up here.
And Infamous doing that same work he has always done in every single round, grabbing that first frag, or at least grabbing the intelligence to be working with for the rest of his team. But if you're the rest of the team, you're worried about that bomb right there, and you're not really too concerned about it when you see Fatality falling. Alpha able to make an exchange there towards that side as well. All the action is on B, but how many players are really going to be alive at the end of this? Well, you're expecting, if you're in CW, for at least one of yours and 0 of Old Dominion. So it all comes down to whether or not that bomb can be picked up, can be planted for the side of Old Dominion. But in the meantime, they're just looking for a setup. They know the retake's going to come through. They know that UNCW wants to get onto that bomb to sit there and keep eyes on it. But with the post setup, with them just gathering around the site, they know the aggression's going to come eventually, and Infamous is going to be prepared for it.
And unfortunately, Alpha just makes a beeline towards A, or actually towards this top tank position, does not see Noodles. So they will be able to grab the bomb, but it looks like Alpha, he smells the blood in the water, sees the window open, sees the bomb has gone down, gets the first kill. That's great isolation. Looks for Noodles, but Noodles finds him first. Now with 28 HP, he's going to be running away, and the rat comes out, and Old Dominion ever so patiently take that one.
Once again, doing exactly what they've done just great this time. Just setting up some crosses, getting whatever intel they can, not really fighting unnecessary fights. Just looking for angles, finding it very slow and steady, and even then we saw that bomb go down, and they didn't really get the plant. They said instead, let's play it slow and steady, see what picks we can grab, knowing that UNCW, they're going to have some rotations come through. They're going to have some players towards the A side saying, well, if bomb's down over there, if there are players over there, they're probably planning, I need to get to that side of the map. Just play it slow and steady, set yourself up towards the outside and say, where are they coming from? What angle are they going to be going through? If I can sit there and see as much as I really want to, I could possibly find at least one kill to where you're working off of. But speaking of kills, Alpha looking for the first one of this round, able to not hit all the shots, but still get some damage off and at least give them the intel to say 3 players are going towards that B side.
And you do see Revan does get a bit of some info there. He did see one of the players slide out. Unfortunately, though, everybody's just going to be playing Ditch the Bomb for now and playing the long angle. That's what's great about this B site is that you can just have multiple angles where you can just immediately put your influence. Roach off screen gets the first one, and now with 20 seconds left, it's go time. There's not really too much to mess around with here, and so you're going to immediately see right here, Noodles does pick off one. Unfortunately, D-Taddy takes him out.
So some fair exchanges here, 2v2 now with Old Dominion trying to get the defuse, and there's an exchange there, now making the 1v1. Infamous being the last alive, and it's not even gonna matter. The man with the sniper, the man with the dream, finds the kill, but he doesn't find the defuse, knowing that he sat there, had enough time stalled. So that's gonna be UNCW getting themselves on the board, not in terms of the series, but there's at least hopeful thinking for them to find a round here inside this S&D.
You really have to tip it to that early plant. They just immediately opportunistic get in, get the bomb down, and just play just away from it. They know that these guys on Old Dominion are just nasty when it comes to that close quarter range. So let's put the ball in our court. Let's keep them away. And immediately, once it came down to that last 10 seconds, just chop the sight. So you're gonna see right here immediately, Revan gets that pick. Actually, he finds the info, but it's Fatality with the pick onto none other than Nevermind. So nice little trade-off.
Yeah, fair exchange there for the side of Old Dominion to make it a one-on-one, and even then, even better where you can get that bomb down as well. Knowing you had the post plant set up, you have Noodles there towards the back, making sure to back up his teammate as much as possible, and Roach being one of those close quarters accelerants, saying, you know what, I'll stay right here. If we got to pop out, if we got to sit there and work something, that's going to be a big problem with Noodles already go ahead and falling down. Roach now being completely surrounded on this side, not really able to do too much, but still finds a kill, knowing that Alpha's on the prowl as well. Being one of those 2 players still alive, he's going to find a second in this round alone. Now looking for the third to close things out, but he doesn't know where the angle's coming from. With the defuse coming down, Roach has literally no idea, and this is going to happen right under his nose if he doesn't check that bomb instantaneously. And fires just a little late. Oh, UNCW did get it, and they find themselves a second here, turning it around, winning it back-to-back, and showing they can still make themselves a fight.
Right under his nose, Mick. There was no way that he could even just maybe look back, just a tingling in the air. I don't know, man. You got to look back at the bomb.
It's definitely due, and even then with another player alive as well. I mean, where was the cross? Where was the secondary? Where was your man to be working off of that to give you the intel? If somebody even came onto that shack to let you know to check that, there just wasn't enough to play with. But even then, Old Dominion doesn't have enough players as the likes of UNCW with that first frag going over to Fatality. Alpha following up as well. I mean, an absolute sweep here for this A site so far. UNCW really feel themselves.
Oh, yeah. After that last round, that's definitely a vote of confidence. Roach, though, in the sight, finds one. Cannot find the second, unfortunately. Wow. And 4th player is going to be taken off screen as well. And now UNCW, 3 round of dominance for themselves.
I got to say, I'm liking the look of this. I mean, a 3-round spree for a 3-round spree. I mean, both these teams going ahead and actually giving them the due diligence and respect that they each deserve. I mean, UNCW kind of not really having the best showing in that hard point, especially with how much it hurt to sit there and lose a 4v3 when you could really ran away with that advantage. Old Dominion stepping up and having that cockiness, having that arrogance, having that just overall performance when it comes around to S&D thus far off the get-go. Things are looking to slow down a little bit for them. And honestly, I don't know if they're really liking the pace of game so far. I mean, when you sit there and find yourself in an S&D, the game's usually going to slow down, but how are you going to capitalize on that? How are you going to play around it? Even then, speaking of playing around, you're trying to play around this A side. You're looking for a kill, and Infamous finds the first.
Yeah, Percy has to run away with his life, but unfortunately, there's too many open lines of sight there into A, and so the bomb will be planted. It's a free of charge, though it was not a free one for UNCW. So Old Dominion currently on the attack, and D-Taddy, nice little nade. Not going to be able to tag up Roach. strangely, but he does get taken out by Nevermind. Vitality comes into the side, gets that trade immediately. Now it's a 3v1, and Roach wins that one. He defends it to his life. So now they're going to be able to respond with a round of their own after that 3-round slaytage.
Well, you would at least hope you could do that. At least that much. If you're going to sit there and fight back, make sure it's once it gets to that tie threshold. Sure, it's a little insulting to find yourself 3 being put up on you once you find 3 yourself, but go ahead, keep that lead. Go ahead and find yourself to just get right back into the groove of things. You find another 3 in a row, and you go ahead and end the game. I mean, if that's going to be the pace of game, how everything really suits itself and the pattern we're going to follow, Old Dominion can find themselves out on top. But they at least go ahead and set the precedent, get on the right foot here, find themselves another round to get themselves in that lead on a 4v3. But maybe it could get even better if we could see Infamous hit any of those shots with 2 of them going out and none of them hitting. You got to hit those.
We get that luxury as casters that we get to sit back and watch this, but it's like watching the game, it's like watching the big game last week, and it's like hit a shot, catch it.
Yeah, I mean, even then, as a sniper, you're expecting that first frag. You're expecting your player, especially with how well the Infamous has been performing, sitting at 8-2 right now. You expect if anybody's going to hit those shots and not miss them, it's going to be him. But it's not all that big of a deal. You find yourself for that retake. You look for the aggression. You at least try to find yourself a first frag and get yourself onto that site. And that's exactly what they're looking to do. With only 8 seconds now and counting to get that defuse started, Roach finds that first kill, finds a little bit more influence towards the site. But D-Tatty here on the edge, right there towards train yard, able to find one. Ooh. A complete wipe possibly coming through. And the last one saves going to be Noodles, trying to go ahead and work for that defuse with 0 seconds left on the clock. Man can't really do anything, can't even find the kill. And we see UNCW able to answer back, making this a tie game once again.
I think if Revan gets those opening shots, this is a much different story. But with that confidence of having 4 men on the site immediately, getting the bomb down, and then playing more reserved, oh yeah, there was no chance Old Dominion was even going to be able to just take the time to circumvent that power position and then get onto the site. Instead, they opted for the site, but remember, like we talked about earlier, Mick, it's just so open. And with so many lines of sight into it, they can just immediately pick off the players from even trying to defuse.
Yeah, and mentioning picks, I mean, that's exactly what Old Dominion is relying on. Finding that first blood, then going ahead, rushing onto a site and see what they can work out of with the rest of the team following through. But even then, sometimes they play scrappy if they know they can't win that fight. You even saw right there, Revan getting out, but Roach finds the exchange, and Fatality still finds at least a kill on the Roach. So you know trades are going through. You know these players are all falling and dying and almost instantaneously. So that just leaves Percy all by his lonesome in a 1v3 now. Never mind getting the bomb down towards that B site, and Percy on the outside, possibly looking to interrupt it or go ahead and get that player kill, but instead you're a little bit too late and you're looking for defuse almost instantaneously. But Ninja defuse. It happened earlier, but on defense this time around, Old Dominion's obviously learned their lesson.
Oh yeah, no chance is he allowing that one again. So immediately gonna be able to take that round, and now it's match point for the side of Old Dominion. But with the way that UNCW has been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a round 11.
I wouldn't either. I mean, honestly, UNCW able to go ahead and get a little bit scrappy here, and they're able to go ahead and make some miracles out of work here. I mean, sure, some of these rounds are sketchy, but I mean, the sketch can usually, with the right color, with the right shading, can turn into a masterpiece eventually. And that would be that first round here in the series for them to be working with, because they really haven't found that yet. To go ahead and shut Old Dominion down in a mode where they've looked outstanding this entire season thus far, that would be a really good rally to be working with. But they already go ahead, push themselves onto the A site. They're looking for that first blood, but instead Roach could almost get it himself. But with 2 players collapsing onto him, Fatality finds that first blood. Noodles makes the exchange over there towards the side of A, looking through that window, through that door, looking to find some little cheeky shots to find himself a guaranteed second.
Ooh, that's interesting from Fatality. I did not know you could plant beyond that little line of sight. So that'll be an interesting one for everyone to take into account. Percy moves in, but fortunately the first shots did not connect. So never mind, we'll win that one. Alpha immediately moves into the side, gets that player off of Noodles. So now you've got this 2v2, 25 seconds. Just looking at trend lines here, Mick, Old Dominion aren't the very best when it comes to post-plant.
Agreed. But with already finding an exchange 1-for-1 there, the last player alive being Alpha, being a little bit too far from the bomb right now, you got 7 seconds for that defuse. And if you went ahead and stuck it immediately, Revan could have found that. But instead, that bomb that you mentioned, that weird angle, still came in on top here for UNCW. You expect, once again, the bomb to be in that lobby area where it's right there to open eyes, but Revan's saying, do they put it inside the bomb? Where is it at? Because we didn't see it get planted. We didn't see it whenever we're trying to go for the defuse. That's a free round for UNCW, and that's making it around 11.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of being able to see the X-ray, but yeah, he was just looking around like a rat looking for some cheese. He couldn't find it. He was blind. All he could know was, hey, the bomb is down. And that cheeky angle, hey, it came through, and that's what really got them the round.
That's what I enjoy about some other games is where you can see on the minimap like a lineup that sits there and highlights where you can plant the bomb in terms of like these tag shooters. But even in Call of Duty, sometimes it's those little luxuries that you get the lackness of. If you do sit there have a sight line, you're not really notified too much. You just go ahead, you're looking for whatever you can, and sometimes that tiny intel can sit there and cost an entire round, as we already see. But once again, UNCW having to double down in this offense, get themselves onto a site and make whatever they can and to get themselves that dub. But now doubling down and possibly not hitting A, as they already missed that first opportunity, those first shots, or rather than finding that first kill. Old Dominion able to go ahead and find themselves a pretty good start.
Yeah, and you look right now with Nevermind, he did get tagged up a bit. So Alpha will find him and immediately finishes off that kill. D-Tatty picks off Revan as well. So now it's a 2v3. You do have Noodles and Roach here who are currently, doing pretty well for themselves. Noodles going 12-6 and Roach 9-8, but it's going to be a bit of a tough one because we know how their post-plant plays go. And with B being the home of the location of this bomb, I'm a little worried for these guys. I'm not going to lie.
I'm most definitely with you. I mean, Old Dominion, they usually find themselves a pretty good lead there in the start, and they work off of it. They play a little bit more scrappy. They sit there, find a blood. They see where they can sit there and collapse two players onto one to have that guarantee. But, I mean, they can't do that time in, time out when they see how spread amongst the UNCW players are. You have Noodles across the map from Roach. Everybody looking to make a play, but Roach running towards his door right into the line side of Alpha, who could possibly find this kill, but instead he plays it slow and steady. Sees he can take him over to his teammate, but instead looking for a crossover. 11 seconds left in this bomb. It takes 7 to defuse, and while Roach may be distracting everybody, we could see a little bit of a ninja defuse, but instead we're going to see UNCW come out on it again. Find that first round with only 1 second left here on time. It's not going to be done, but UNCW could definitely find themselves one in here in this series.
Well, there you go. UNCW take this map in a very, very strategic round 11. And so now the map counter is 1-1. I did not expect this to happen. This is what we wanted out of the side of UNCW in our pre-match head-to-head. We talked about how they needed to take this S&D. And to see them take it now in a round 11 fashion, maybe this is the momentum change that they needed.
Yeah, I mean, we've sat there already talking about Old Dominion and how well their hard point worked. They had themselves a pretty good stat lineup for that. I mean, already sitting 11-2, but now 8-1 in the S&D, now making that 8-2. I mean, against the likes of UNCW, who really hasn't had the most impressive season or the most impressive stat lines to be working with. But we can mention stats all day. I mean, obviously, as a color caster, I love looking at numbers and working off of them. And especially speaking of numbers and stats, we already have at least one from this S&D to look at to go ahead and figure out how exactly we've gotten here and how stats may sometimes be irrelevant in terms of series and modes. As we sit there and see a little bit of lackluster performances out of some of these players. Nevermind and Percy not really able to step up, and obviously Nevermind kind of not doing enough generally, even in damage, comparative to the rest of his teammates to really get themselves at 6th.
And you do have to mention on the side of UNCW, that man, the myth himself, Fatality, 13-10. With 9 non-traded kills, definitely was working a lot. And you also have to shout out, Percy. He was 3-9, but those kills that he had were just very impact plays. I was making note of that from the beginning. He may have been the least in terms of the kills for the side of UNCW, but those impact kills were just beautiful.
Yeah, so as you can see, most of the players on the side of Old Dominion able to step up, find themselves a lot of lives to be working with. That's going to be a big note to be making here going into the next game mode, which is going to be controlled. You find yourself a blend of hardpoint and S&D where you only have yourself so many lives to be working with, on top of looking for those sites as well, just like it would be on hardpoint. So the best of both worlds could go ahead and find themselves getting into a little bit of a more scrappy fight now, because we are guaranteed at least a map 4. So as everything goes ahead and goes into that map 4, we could also see a map 5 if we see UNCW able to step themselves up, or Old Dominion able to just go ahead and keep a fighting chance here. But we'll have to go ahead and see whether that comes into fruition after the short little break we got coming up. So you'll see some more CCL action. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, welcome back. We're now live here, ready with that hot and steamy action for you. It's your boy OG Son with Mick here, bringing you this UNCW versus Old Dominion Esports. It's been quite an interesting night, Mick. It really has.
Most definitely has, and already sat there. We've seen a 3v4 comeback. We've seen Old Dominion have almost a flawless record, be tarnished a little bit more so tonight in that S&D. I mean, a lot of things to stack up so far, but we're not even done yet. We can go ahead and give a little bit of a recap of what's happened in the maps thus far to give all you new people here a little bit of an introduction to what's going on, to talk about that 3v4 matchup that happened on Hardpoint, where Old Dominion had themselves a player loss for the majority, I would say the first half of the map, and then end up bringing things around, still find themselves on top in a 250, and where Old Dominion is also in the stat line, sitting at 8-1, is now 8-2 in that lineup of the mode as they find themselves falling to UNCW. They're in around 11. So a little bit of scrappiness here, a little bit of scrap time picked up the side of Old Dominion there, and even then, they still got to close things out. So as we sit there and look at Control, our next two maps are going to be Gavutu, and we're going to go ahead and start with the Control, but then move on to Hardpoint once again. So with a map like this, with a setup like this, we got to sit there and consider really how these two teams are going to stack up on that.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one indeed, and we talked a little bit about the the severity of Gavutu for the side of UNCW. Much like that S&D, they're going to be coming in as the underdogs for this one, but clearly we see how they play when they are put under that pressure, and I'm very hopeful to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm most definitely with you. I mean, looking at the lineups, looking at kind of a potential a map can make up, because we sat there and saw Old Dominion, a lot of their players really just slaying out. I mean, just across the board, looking extremely well, which never mind only having himself about 3 frags in that entire 11-round series. So, I mean, the way things are looking, if everybody goes ahead and continues that same factor, we may see the likes of UNCW not have any lives to work with to immediately win themselves around if they keep up that kind of momentum. But they got to sit there and make sure to keep all their teammates accountable. Sure, you're going to lose some lives in the process. That's just how things work. But it comes down to how many lives you lose. Because even then, if we do find ourselves going back and forth on those defensive sides, winning because of how defense-sided Control is, that's the impressive part about it. If you still make sure to manage your lives as best as you can and coming out with as many lives at the end towards those 2 rounds to be completed, or at least, those 4 to be done once you get to find yourself that 3rd point, the defenders sit there and are established by who has the most lives. So it really comes down to just preserving what you can while still making sure to slay out as much as you can. And honestly, you've got to sit there and make sure if your guy isn't doing all good of a job and he's not really standing out in terms of those kills and not really trading things off where he should be, say, look, buddy, play back a little bit more, play a bit more scrappy. Even then, I would say go ahead and go across the map, finding yourself in a 1v1. And if you can win it, great, pick up some time. If you can't, just keep on going back over there, make the draw a little bit longer this time around so we can just sit there and do what he need to.
Yeah, right now I'm hearing a bit of just thinking to myself. When UNCW came into that last one, we had a lot of predictions up in the air.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna predict it right now, okay? And I hope you're ready too, Mick, because we all, when we come to these standstills,
I didn't know what
the predictions, it's interesting, am I right? And I'm gonna say right now, UNCW 3-1 Old Dominion.
3-1, like in terms of rounds or this entire series?
I'm saying this entire this round, this match.
Okay. So just for Control, you're thinking 3-1 in the likes of UNCW. You're expecting them to go ahead and pull out not only, an offense, but 2 defenses as well.
I think they're feeling good, man. And
okay.
Coming from a player background, when I'm in these moments and these moves,
okay.
oh, I'm feeling good. I feel like I can beat FaZe.
Okay. Well, you know what? To counteract that point, I'm going to sit there and say it's possibly going to be a 3-2 in the favor of Old Dominion, but even then they could go ahead and wake up, and if they really sit there and find themselves a pretty good start here on the attacking side, it could be a 3-1 in the opposite favor for them. But with the first 2 kills already going over to the side of UNCW, they have themselves a great start. They already had themselves a little bit more momentum towards that A site, but they're holding things down. They're doing a pretty good darn job, and they want to push up these spawns to find a little bit more.
Right now, Fatality, nice work with the team. They do get into the sites. You're able to stop them, but Roach, never mind. They do their work as a duo here, but Roach going to be holding the hill for now. Get some nice shots. That's another 3 downs. A little bit of a trade-off here. Alpha now just waking up, but Noodle's going to be able to push them back, keeping those players stuck in the spawns. Percy, though, does go a little bit close to the sun here, but does get Roach, but immediately gets traded out.
Yeah, fair exchange here on the A site. You see constantly just players' presence towards that area, looking to go ahead and find that first site to get some extra time. But Where do lives come down to? Well, Old Dominion has caught themselves back up with the first 3 going over to the side of UNCW. Old Dominion steps it up, finds himself into an even game once again, now coming out on top with 2. As you can see, an entire team wipe comes through, and if you get a double stack onto the A side, you already find yourself an extra minute to be working with. So now, sitting at what would be 149 now for Old Dominion to find themselves the entirety of B side. UNCW just has to hold things down a little bit more, and they only have 18 lives to do it.
Yeah, 18 to 22. Old Dominion are up. Looks like I might be eating my words. Who said no, Mick? But you do see, never mind, pulling out the rat. Does not realize that the player is going to be running parallel to him, but fatality there. Able to get a nice 2-piece there towards the side of B. So really, it's been a bit of a shutdown from both sides. You know, you do have Old Dominion that do get in. They did grab that A, but B being the next destination, Revan's going to start opening up here and doing some of that pre-work for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great way for Old Dominion to find themselves a lot of kills to go ahead and get themselves in the advantage, but what are they going to do with this time? What are they going to do with this kill advantage that they have on their side? Are they going to find any time on this B site? And it's going to look pretty close for them not to do that just yet, as UNCW has really been stepping things up in the kills department. Already found themselves so many kills, evening out this game, now also finding an advantage. You'd expect Old Dominion to be a little bit more upfront with their approach, pushing onto that B side, but instead, looking for some wraparounds, looking for some crazy angles to shut down D-Tatty, which is going to be on top of that boat right now, still holding down A site. Percy's going to be just sitting on site, able to just perch himself towards B, find some kills on top of it, and just sit there with the automaton, do his job. But everything dwindling down. You sit there, only have 30 seconds left. You need to get onto the site, and Percy looking to back up, say, look, they're really pushing this eventually, and Fatality's going to hold it right up there in the middle.
Yeah, and you do see right here, Alpha in the connector right now. This is going to be a quick one, but a little bit of a suicidal trade-off with Fatality and Revan going down, but Alpha now pops out, goes for the kill. 13 seconds left. UNCW's defense holding still. 8 seconds left in the overall, and Alpha does get some shots in. He does get one, but Fatality, he immediately stops that player from getting in, and there you go. That's going to be the round, and UNCW, they take it.
They most definitely do, and obviously we sat there and expected these defense to go ahead and set up, and UNCW had themselves a pretty good start here. Obviously, Old Dominion not really having too much presence towards that B site, looking for some alternate avenues, looking to lock down these spawns, find their job to be that much easier once a player gets on there, but you got to go ahead and set things up for them. So a lot to really stack up here, a lot of just momentum for these players to really get themselves onto a site, but UNCW, have they made the note of that last round to say, look, we held things down pretty well. We sat there across the side. We just had that one wipe which gave A away. Can we do that same thing? And can we sit there and look for a new alternative motive to get ourselves onto B? Are we going to have a split, or are we going to go right or B off the get-go? Well, that's going to be answered right here, as we can already see a 2-2 towards the middle and towards that B side. Slow and steady, though. Except they already found themselves the first 2 kills on both sides, and even in exchange for all these teams that UNCW already found themselves a little bit short. But still, it doesn't matter too much. You already see a player on that A side able to go ahead and accumulate some time, but Old Dominion making themselves a return to grab some time as well to really diminish that down and make sure you don't hit that first tick. But with exchanges to come through, UNCW coming out on top right now, still at a 1-life disadvantage. They're not really too beat up about it as they find themselves going right back through, but with a little bit more time to tick up, UNCW get themselves a little bit more time on A and finding that first tick as well. They sit there and have a pretty good running here as they reach the halfway point.
Yeah, you do see here Noodles just being in the middle. It's going to be a bit of a tough one because he's got players in the front and the back. So he's going to have to pick a fight here, but Nevermind does find one. There you go. That's going to be some good help. But as I said, that Noodles was taken off the board. So you do have a bit of a fight coming here towards B. But right now from the side of UNCW, they're just getting a bit of a harder, attempt at this time because they do have a player here at B. Noodles and co. They are just starting to besiege that position, but Alpha and co, they are going to be the ones to make some moves, but Revan, he does clean up the site, so that'll move the battle back to A.
I do like the exchange here from the likes of UNCW. Get a little bit more scrappy, moving across the map, making sure to get some time on both sides, but even then the cross and all the advantage being towards that A side. As you go ahead, you pick up the secure, you already find yourself a tick towards B because you've already sit there and worked a little bit of a scrappy maneuver towards that side of the map, making sure that you're still in better standing than Old Dominion was at this stage in the game. Sure, you're only down 3 lives, and you can definitely bring that back, but that life differential is already going to go ahead and set up some kind of momentum shift and a little bit of a slowdown for UNCW, showing that they can't really get too over-aggressive. They can't get overzealous, but if you're Fatality, you still move up the middle of the map. You still go ahead and start pushing towards these spawns, and if you can grab a little bit more, and there it is, finding the second, looking now for a third to just absolutely make itself at home.
And you see here, D-Tatty, nice play. They're going to be able to open up that left lane, so Percy's going to be able to just stay on this side for now. He does know that Revan is coming. Daddy tries to fight him, but not going to happen just yet. Does see the stun coming in, but does get taken down. So that's a 3-for-1 trade. Very nicely done from the boys on the side of Old Dominion. Fatality being last man here. He's going to really need to stay up and help his team just, you know, successfully transition back onto the site. But looks as though he got a little bit too zealous and went back to maybe help out, but loses his life in the process.
You can see UNCW's life threshold falling shortly, slowly, and just kind of diminishing down to the point where you really can't play the game anymore. Already sitting at 9, they're going to have themselves what would look like 1 life and 2 other resets for the rest of the team. That is if everybody plays things slow and steady. Looking for a little bit of a setup across the map, getting themselves scattered everywhere else except the B side. You still find Nevermind going ahead, picking up that first kill, shutting that down. Noodle's finding one as well, making sure that saying, hey, they're moving to the other side of the map and there's another player still alive. Where's he going to be at? Well, he's going to be right behind you, Nevermind. He's going to be up there towards that tower, up there towards radio, looking for that kill, but instead, you see only 8 seconds left. UNCW having themselves somewhat of a reset in no time to get themselves onto the site with a life diminish of 6. So that's going to be a really good setup here for Old Dominion as they move themselves possibly what could be a theoretical overtime.
Yeah, theoretical indeed, and that was a bit of a tough one. I thought UNCW had a bit of a grip there, but with the way that, you know, Revan was playing towards that mid gun, it really was a bit of a hard one to just try and, you know, pass that 50-yard line that he was holding.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I mean, just looking at the way they were just kind of scattered across. I mean, Old Dominion just holding a little bit more of just your stereotypical hold there, looking at the middle of the map, looking towards that side, having a player up there in the middle, what would be P1 of that hard point, just going ahead and make yourself at home. Because if you do find yourself going to this hard point up, you want to make sure to bring that momentum over, bring that advantage over. But if we're having advantages being talked about, we already see UNCW being up 2 kills, moving themselves through that site and pushing these spawns as well.
Ooh, but you do see right there, it looked as though Alpha Fatality was going to get a little bit more aggressive. But he did get stuck on the rock, but hey, switch out. D-Tatty now, automaton in hand. Going for the longer range, signs 1. Immediately falls back. Fatality now making his turn for the pick. Gets 1, looks for the second, and he immediately finds it. This is very great duo work, tandem in hand. And you just see Fatality just making it look like it's nothing.
Yeah, he's already pushed himself to the side. He found so many kills there towards that spawn, making sure that life advantage was just huge there. 27 out of 21 with streaks as well, as you mentioned. I mean, so much set up here for the squad to go ahead and really just preserve the likes of this game. Buy some more time. Get scattered across. You can already see Fatality doing it once again. Looking for that kill under Revan there towards that B side, but instead, sometimes it's going to be accumulated on both sides of the field. B, possibly hitting that first tick, unless that slay comes through. But even then, at the same time, you get the rest of the team fighting for A, or at least trying to, being on the top of that boat, not really within that space where you can actually accumulate that time. Instead, playing it slow and steady, waiting for some backup. But problem is, you only got 27 seconds left, and this is going to be a big issue for Old Dominion if they don't make a move.
Yeah, do you see Alpha right here? He is in position to make the play. Does find Nevermind. That's going to help the site players be able to lose their coverage, and finds the third, and sticking true to his name, just Alpha movement and mentality. There you go, UNCW are able to stop that progression at A. Alpha, he stays up here and gets maybe another, but it's going to be D-Tatty who's going to be the one to stop it with 7 seconds left. Revan's last man to really chow the hill, and he's going to get taken down. But now Noodles, oh no, he gets slid under, and the movement not in his favor. So UNCW, oh my goodness, Mick, they're 2-1 now.
Yeah, an extremely impressive hold there from on this defense so far. I mean, going ahead, finding that first round fairly scrappy, not really giving up too much time towards that B, but A was almost in complete control of Old Dominion. Old Dominion never really found themselves getting anywhere else. They didn't go ahead, look for these alternative motives, get themselves anywhere else on the map, go ahead and create these kind of trick plays you would expect to come through to really get this opponent to be caught out from under them, swipe the rug out from under them. But instead, we see UNCW just doing such a great job on this defense. Doubling down once again, having a bigger life differential. Also, not even giving them any time at all or a single site to be dealing with. But Old Dominion now looking to answer back, find themselves a defense as well to go in this overtime because UNCW, they're saying, I'm sure, Sasano, your little prediction was great, and we want to sit there and see it come out. Problem is, I don't want to be wrong, so I want to see Old Dominion step things up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's what I love about our little duo here. You know, we have different views on it, but as I say that, they just immediately wiped that B. That is absolutely insane. Because not only now does that give the fight more towards a linear approach towards A, this whole, you know, literal 2/3 of the map practically useless unless you're going to go for a flank.
Yeah, you most definitely are, and even then, sure, that's how you're going to set yourself up for a site. With B already completely captured, this is a really good standing here for UNCW. Already attacking, having themselves a 2-life differential, already having some presence there towards that site, knowing that no players are really too aggressive towards that spawn as well. As Alpha finds one, make sure that the middle's cleared up a little bit, but even then the exchange comes onto the A site. Roach is trying to hold them there on top, just can't really stay alive enough to really make that impact. So with the pressure now coming through, a little bit of time touched as well, but Prezi having a presence on that A site, you get to sit there and have some backup as well, because we see Old Dominion trying to get themselves on the site, trying to have a little bit more of a fighting chance, because things are looking really, really desperate for them now.
Yeah, and Noodles taking one with him, but unfortunately it's a 4-for-1 trade. That'll push the players on UNCW back. Revan immediately sees that, but Fatality stops him. He said, hey, I know this playbook. I did it last round. I know how to challenge. And immediately, Fatality, he's just such an impact player. Impact slayer, if you will. But never mind, gets a nice little 2 free picks off of that rotation, 17-16. A minute left. And UNCW are back at it, running for the hill.
And honestly, this is a much better setup here for UNCW. I mean, the B side is a lot closer to those spawns for Old Dominion on those defensive side of the map than it is against the likes of UNCW. It's a little bit of a hop and a skip for them to get to that A site, and it's going to be a little bit more of a further run for the likes of Old Dominion. So they just got to find one good wipe, but they can't even manage that right now. You can already see them looking to get a little bit desperate, go for some alternative motives, go somewhere else on the map, see if they can find themselves a flank, but that's going to invest so much time when they only have 30 seconds left on the clock right now and only 9 lives remaining as well. So things really turning around here. Old Dominion stepping things up, now making it to 15-7, 26 seconds left on the clock, and there's almost no players to be seen towards the side as well. I think they're just holding things out, saying maybe with how much of a life lead we had in that last round, if we could just play things slow and steady, not give any lives over, and just let this go into this 5th round, we could still have ourselves a free defense.
Yeah, and I think your storyline might be a little bit more true. We'll have to see who gets this round 5, but looking at just the kills alone, I can safely say, I was about safely safe to say, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Safe to say that it is going to be on the side of UNCW.
I agree. I think they're going to have themselves a life advantage here. I think they're going to come out on this defense, and the way they sat there and won that last defense, it was outstanding. That spells a lot of trouble here for the likes of Old Dominion, who couldn't find themselves a single site last time they were on this attacking side. So things are going to have to be really desperate, and they're really going to have to sit there and have a completely new way to look at this mode.
Yeah, and as you say that, now the fight begins for this side on A. But looks as though Nevermind's going to be able to open up that one. D-Taddy, nice nade off camera. Fatality, he's got full streaks here. So these streaks will definitely be a big talking point here pretty soon as we move towards B, because A, I believe, is going to be just giving up here pretty soon.
Yeah, you're very not really nice. Touched up too much, but if you're talking about Fatality, he's touching up every single one of these members of Old Dominion right now. I would have found so many kills towards that spawn. I would have wiped out A as well. The guy is going off. Fatality, I mean, his name is really coming to life right now, and the rest of the team can capitalize on that. Already able to go ahead and diminish that 3rd point, shut down Old Dominion, say, look, Chief, you grabbed the free 2, but we can't give you this entire site for free. You still got to work for something. You can already see the fights coming down. Roach holding down some time as well as trying to find out slays as well, but eventually gets collapsed on. This is the time where your Old Dominion say, look, can we rotate? Can we do anything else? Because they're obviously sitting on A. You have Noodles up there on the top, trying to play it slow and steady, look for some picks to make sure the job is that much easier, but gets flanked from the back, but it doesn't even matter. Everybody at UNCW stacked on this A side. If you're Old Dominion, you got to come up with some kind of different plan.
Yeah, Old Dominion right now, they had that for a second, but Fatality just immediately wiped the squad. Gave the opportunity to his teammates, and Alpha gets a nice movement in there, but unfortunately, you do see Roach coming in, getting a nice 2-piece for himself. So they will begin to start securing here pretty soon, but the last man left in this line, it's Fatality, but here comes the bomb. Not going to be able to tag anybody up, but 24 seconds left in the overall timer, and it looks as though this A site is going to be secured for the side of Old Dominion.
And there it is, now getting a minute 24 on the clock, having 15 lives still remaining. It's not nearly as good as UNCW's 18 now standing, but they've grabbed themselves 2 kills, and they can especially look at this, get themselves towards this B side. They just find the right avenue to take towards it. You see Roach able to go ahead back a little bit towards that spawn, open things up with the rest of the team, can finally get some breathing around the map. But Revan, who's pushing up the middle, trying to find these kills, trying to create that space for the rest of his team to get actually onto that B side, you have a little bit of a daisy chain here out of these players. Finding some space here and there, just pushing it up the map, playing push of war, exactly how control should be played out. But you only got 52 seconds left. You need to make sure these lives are really accounted for, because now it's a 14-14. Revan's on site. He needs to hold down the angle. Roach with a beautiful glide bomb able to find 2. The Fatality answers with one of his own. Only finding 1 player, though. So the exchanges come out. Never mind, goes ahead and pushes it back to the middle. And B is still being pushed up here from Old Dominion.
Yeah, that was a big one out of Roach to be able to get that 2-piece, but you're going to see right here, Fatality, he still has the strafing run. Unfortunately, does not use his weapon just enough time, but there you go, nice low help from the side of Alpha to be able to take down Roach. And it looks as though we've got 40 seconds left, 11-9 in the life counter. This is going to be a rough one for the side of UNCW as they are currently down.
Most definitely are. They only had themselves literally 2 more resets for the entirety of the team, and they had to push up onto the map with that alone. With 9 lives still remaining for Old Dominion and 8 in the UNCW, I mean, this is going to be a really, really fair exchange. It all comes down to these last couple frags. Only 18 seconds left. None of these players really able to go ahead and get themselves on the side. It all comes down to Nevermind and Infamous Raven trying to push up, trying to find that space. They do find a kill, but can they find all the players who were scattered about? With these spawns being so close, they're not really finding all the necessary kills yet. Raven finding now 2. The glide there coming out for Alpha, able to find 2 kills there. That may be the entire round, and that could be UNCW coming out on top. If Roach can't touch, and he most definitely can't, UNCW find themselves leading the series, now being up 2-1.
Wow, that strafing run came in at the last most possible second from, I believe that was Alpha, and just takes it. There you go.
Didn't Fatality have one as well?
I think Fatality had one as well. I thought Fatality was going to use that to force the players from the gun, from Top Gun there, to down, and then another one. That's why I was like, oh, this is a unilateral play. This is going to be insane. There you go, UNCW now 2-1.
Well, where some players can't make the call, some players will, and they can definitely make it a little bit more of an impact than necessary, knowing the right times. And that was most definitely Alpha in that scenario. Breaking out that strafing run, saying, look, Fatality, you've been sitting on it for the right moment. This is it right now. Oh, you still have it? You don't want to use it? It's fine. I got one of my own. I'll go ahead and step things up. I'll find myself the little strafing run there, set things up, and especially with the life differential of that 3rd round there for Old Dominion, or excuse me, UNCW, who had such a big life advantage there, and also playing it slow towards the end, a little bit safer with that last round where they're the attacking side. Some great calls there to make sure that their defense was held down just as efficiently as they have from start to finish. So we already have these stats ready to look at for this last matchup. We can talk a little bit more about how UNCW really has come out on top of the series thus far. Still having to look for one more, but definitely having 2 right now is a good look for it.
Yeah, you look at the side of Dominion right now, and you do have to, highlight Revan. 28 non-traded kills. His work was essential in making sure that these guys had proper lane usage to be able to get in. With the map like Gavudu, it's just a very hard time trying to just get into these lanes without these ARs being in there. So Revan's work was essential, but unfortunately, just the util usage and streak usage from UNCW really was the decider.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, looking at the way that this series is going to continue, we got to look at the maps and see where we're going. Because guess what? Surprise, surprise, we're going right back to Gavudu. And this is going to be a little bit of a stinging series here for the likes of Old Dominion, because now they've sat there and lost on Gavudu. They've lost on S&D, a Mo where they sit there and look outstanding. A flawless Mo, which is going to be control for them, they've lost as well. So UNCW really kicking things up. Once again, we sat there mentioned prior to the series, we were looking at the head-to-head, is that sure, you can talk about stats all day, where Old Dominion definitely is taking the cake in there, but it all comes down to the action you provide here on the field. And UNCW definitely bringing a lot more after probably being a little bit ticked off after that hard point.
Oh yeah, after that hard point, I think the flame was in their belly and they were ready to go. They immediately won that Berlin Search and Destroy 6-5, and then recently that Gavudu 3-2 control. So now we're going back to Gavudu, but this time, Mick, for hardpoint. Now I'm ready to see, Mick, a full-on 4v4, okay? No more 3v4. I want to see it here live.
I mean, you witnessed it just a little bit late and a little delayed in that first game. But honestly, regardless of what happened, we saw Old Dominion just step things up. Problem is, Tuscan is a much more nitty-gritty map, a much more contested map, a much more SMG-heavy map than the likes of Gavudu, where you find these long lineups where we saw the assault rifles, the automatons, just completely going off here in this last mode when you're on control. Thing is now, with the hardpoint, everybody fighting for the exact same site, we see the potential of these spawns, seeing how much they really had that differential with, that A site here on control being P2 and that B site being P3 here. it still have that relevancy. You still had that factor of spawns, being how far away you are coming from it. But the spawns are going to be the same, because still you'll have some players spawn towards that tower, you have some players spawn towards that defending side, and it'll be a much more closer fight. But it all comes down to where the rotations come through and whether or not these teams are still able to really breathe that into life, because we didn't see too many rotations, we didn't see too many flank routes, we didn't see too much kind of nitty gritty here and there for the likes of Old Dominion to really get themselves onto that B side or really have too much of a fight. So they still have to really factor that in here. They just have unlimited lives to do it. Problem is, you may have unlimited lives, but you still have that respawn timer to really make a big factor there to say, we can sit there and push up far enough for UNCW to say, you're now spawning over here. You are completely in our court. You better make yourself a home where you can while we accumulate this time.
Yeah, with rotations being also a big factor, you know, like you said, limited lives may be, but if you're not getting in time to those hills and just making sure that influence is felt on the map, oh boy, that's going to be a tough one. But I do want to highlight, though, that, you know, we will be having a lot of AR showdowns that we did see in that control, but now even more mobile and prevalent in the hardpoint.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the way the hardpoint plays out, obviously UNCW is a little bit more pacey, a little bit more slower than where you'd see everywhere else, because maps that are really just kind of accustomed to the AR play, it's going to slow down, and that's just really how it goes. So larger, the more open the map is, the more afraid you are as an SMG player to get aggressive, force those kills, and really get yourself across the map. You got to sit there and figure out the most efficient route for yourself to get somewhere without dying or running into an engagement where you're not really favored to win it. So as we go ahead, get into Gavutu and have this little cinematic running, we could sit there and discuss what possibly could come out from this P1, knowing where these sides are may go ahead and spawn off the get-go. Comes down to whether or not we can see these teams get ready for this P2, how they sit there, get across the map once again for P3, and shuffle back and forth, do the same exact thing time in and time out, and who can really have themselves enough presence in the middle to cut these rotations off.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one indeed, but really I'm thinking about right now, if these ARs are going to be able to be influencing just like we saw in the control, I want to see if our subs like Fatality can still have that same effect with just how well he was holding down that control, to see if he can hold down these sites just as effectively.
And we obviously see Old Dominion spawning on this defending side, so they're going to be running up the hill a little bit more so than we're going to see out of UNCW. But with the first little bit of time still being contested, we see Old Dominion able to hold things down, find these first 3 kills. It's going to be a pretty good start for them. Thing is, can they follow up? Can they do it once again, knowing these spawns are going to be forced out a little bit more? So with only 35 seconds remaining off the get-go, knowing that spawn is going to sit there and factor in time as well, Rev is going to push for a flank and possibly find a massive plate.
Yeah, and I want to highlight there, Old Dominion are rocking 3 ARs and 1 sub. So really that lane and just map influence being a huge priority for them. Clearly, we've seen just how well, because that P1, that's going to be uncontested, and that's going to be given to them freely right now. Just that first break was all that it costed.
And even you could already see one of the players already going over there towards that P2, looking to go ahead and hold things down, but it doesn't even matter all that much. You still have one back there towards that first site, able to go ahead and pick up most of the time. The majority sitting at 42 seconds out of that 60. And even then, ready for the second one as well. Old Dominion already holding down the first half of this time, or at least the first couple seconds. Thing is, can they continue this sweep? Can they go ahead, get themselves even further? Now, locking them out to 50-0 right now is going to be a really good start for them. They're going to continue. And you can already see the flanks coming through out of Roach, looking to go ahead and get behind the back to these UNCW players. Able to find one, looking for a second one possibly with the player right behind him. But Alpha now coming on top of the Automaton, able to find a lineup and get the second as well.
He finds a nice 2-piece right there. D-Taddy holding the site, and now they're going to be able to finally put some points on the board. Fatality still effective here on the boat, but he's going to be off-angled, and Roach will be able to get him. So Alpha now towards the top line is able to help out, bringing this vertical battle down to the horizontal, and he immediately pushes these players back for the rotation, because right now it's looking like UNCW do have a decent hold for it.
And even you go look at Old Dominion and really where they're setting themselves up for it. Knowing P3 is coming up here soon, knowing the player's probably going to be set up for it, and with how preemptive CNW was last time, you're going to make sure you're sitting on the side already. At least get yourself inside the boat, get around it, or at least have a secondary player if you're going to be sitting around it. And sure, you expect the player to be in there, so you see the frag coming out, trying to go ahead and get that grenade in there. It's going to be Percy, but instead, Alpha's going to turn things around. Look outstanding so far, and go ahead and grab themselves a couple kills, but it's not going to be enough, because even then, already sitting at 84-18, Old Dominion stepping things up, looking even better, having a 3-player set up there on the top, as Nevermind finds 2.
Yeah, and that's a nice little 3-for-1, but Revan does get taken out from the site by Fatality, so Noodles will be here to help contest, but you know, with this rotation being right on the horizon, D-Daddy, he's going to be able to maybe break these positions, get ready for this new, because we're heading to the opposite side of the map, and it's looking as though that, you know, with D-Daddy being just a very fast sub player, making these routes, they're going to be able to take it for now. But we saw last time how an early rotation worked for them. If Old Dominion can get it, definitely will have a better chance breaking it.
And this P4 is really the actual money hill of this map on Gabutu. You find your SMG players actually being able to have a fighting chance knowing how close this side is. I mean, you can already see it right there. Fatality finding one with the SMG in hand, looking to keep going as well and possibly find a little bit more time onto the clock, but knowing that contention's coming through, knowing the spawns are still on the side. Now for Old Dominion, who's coming up right here on the flank, able to possibly shut down D-Tatty, and there it is, coming out on top. I mean, this is where the SMG players really had to make a stance. They had to stand up, saying, look, this is an extremely long-range map. I'm not going to be able to find too many kills until we finally get to that stage where I can, and I have to go off to compensate for that. So you already see UNCW making an answer once again, pushing right back up to the middle, able to find the correct kills at the right time, and find themselves a wipe as well. But Revan now still spawning in the back with the rest of Old Dominion. They sit there and find themselves within hopping distance of, within spitting distance of the site, but Fatality going off is not going to matter all that much.
We do see Alpha making some plays here on this player off rotation. That's Roach. He's just sticking to his name, just creeping and crawling around. Alpha, though, he does suspect this movement and immediately denies his movement. So now that's a 3-for-1. Looks as though that they are going to be in hold of this new one. Old Dominion did not get too much time off of that last. There was a lot of contests, but Fatality, his plays have just been so essential in helping out, and it's clearly being shown with his streak right now.
It most definitely is. I mean, you can already see all these players really stepping up, doing some outstanding work, and UNCW doing even better work, able to catch themselves back up and get within a 10-point game. But as everything's standing so far, Old Dominion had themselves at least the front hand of this time on over here on P5. As sketchy as things were looking on the opposite side of the map, they weren't on P1. You have more players looking at this P5, looking to find possibly what could be rotations for this P1, setting up for those defending side spawns on control. But, I mean, everything looking pretty good so far. With only 6 seconds left, you have to look for this P1 so far, because that's what's coming up next. And we already see D-Tatty holding things down with that SMG, the rest of these players of UNCW holding things out as well, but Roach may have something to say about it.
Ooh, very nicely done. Breaks that rotation. One player left, and that's going to be Fatality that challenges him. Immediately goes for a two-piece of his own, and never mind. Well, he's going to be able to break that one. So a nice little 3-for-2 trade here, but you will be able to hold the hill for now, but your teammates are not anywhere near to be able to just assist. So you're going to have to try and stay alive here, but Roach now able to reach the site, and it looks as though that, you know, UNCW did have a good holder right at the start, but it just wasn't too much to really sustain.
Yeah, and speaking of holes, I mean, look at Percy there on the minimap, number 4, sitting on top of that boat, right there on top of that tower, just able to find so many kills up there, but not really making too much of an impact when it comes around to finding the kills that are relevant to P1. Just going ahead, sure, you're going ahead and getting some cutoffs, you're watching the middle of the map, you're letting your teammates know when other people are coming up, but if you don't have any time on the site, it doesn't even matter. You have Old Dominion accumulating so much time, getting the entirety of that P1, really stacking things up, now having a 60-point lead. And that's going to be a big problem unless you don't hold down P2, which isn't too much of a big deal, as UNCW do find themselves a little bit of time here, but it's only the front end of time. And you only find yourself a couple seconds compared to an entire site, and knowing that you've already bought Old Dominion so much time to make an impact play, with Nevermind looking to go across the map, or excuse me, Roach looking for that flank play. He knew how to cut off these spawns and really just shut things down.
And you've got 2 players from the side of Old Dominion as they move in right now. They're going to be able to stop that top play, so the vertical battle being not a big challenge for them. Fatality, though, he's still going on. He got Revan, and now looking for the second player. Immediately, just clears him off the board, but never mind. He's just been staying alive and pretty well in the site, and once he goes down, he stays up just enough for another teammate to rotate in. So Old Dominion, they will be able to hold that hill for the general most of the time. Right now, UNCW, Thursday, unfortunately, he's going 4-14. He's going to need to step it up.
I completely agree, and even then I kind of like the tower play he had earlier, because knowing his KD, he doesn't really want to get into too many fights. He wants to sit there and play for spawns, wants to play things slow and steady, try and go ahead and void as much violence as possible, knowing he's probably going to catch the rear end of that. So you can see Revan, though, stepping things up. Being at 25 and 13, that's the opposite end of the spectrum. The absolute slayer here for Old Dominion, who's going to be on that side as well, already holding P3, who's done it multiple times. But now, instead of Percy having to go ahead and fight that out, you see that the glide bomb comes down for fatality, find that kill, making the job that much easier. But now, Ultimate is reaching that 200-point threshold. If they touch the site for 1 second, they can hold the entirety of one more site to close out this game, put the pressure on UNCW to really step things up, which they're definitely answering with the kills that came out from them and the time that's going to follow up.
Yeah, and you do see D-Tatty just taking advantage of this 4 down. He's making his play towards the beach, packing his sandals. It's getting wet over here, but you do notice that they have found his position, so that Nevermind will be the one to challenge him and does win it. So switching out for more of a faster approach, picks up his MP40, but Percy, there you go, immediately picks up the trade for his fallen teammate. 145 to 199 as we head into this hill. And Roach, even though he's got an MP40, he's still holding down this lane from the top of middle gun.
Already starting strong to be Old Dominion here on this P4, and this is where they can close things out. They're just going to make sure to stop the contention, but that's a problem because you've already seen it come through. UNCW had to flip things around. You have Fatality sitting on that site, but Roach looking for a contestant as well with the MP40, not able to make the impact play, knowing Fatality has one as well, and he's feeling a heck of a lot more hot with that 3K, so able to step things up, able to find a little bit more kills, never mind with that glide bomb being invested there, not able to find as much as he wants. The rest of Old Dominion's going to push in and look for a little bit more scratch time here, with only 20 seconds left. I wouldn't blame him to go ahead and say, you know what, screw this. Let's go over to P5, set things up, and get ourselves a guaranteed at least 40, knowing there's going to be 60 left on the clock still.
Yeah, and really, right now with UNCW not even being able to hold that scrap, it's going to be a bit of a hard one. So as we hop into this hill towards the back, it's going to be 172 to 210. The dock is not going to be your favorite here because you have players already immediately just going on flanks from either side. Trades coming in, that's a 2 for 2, but Revan will be able to win that one. Right now, Fatality's plays here are going to be what defined the rest of the game. And there you go, that's a 2 down. Helps them out.
Most definitely does with that 2K. Right now, Old Dominion, all they have to do is find 2 sites where they get a third of the time, because UNCW just doesn't have enough to really stack things up for that. They have to find the right angle to come from, and Percy already going ahead, sitting on the top of that boat, able to get intel to his teammates. He has no backup there on the site to really stop these players. We already see Old Dominion accumulating the time, making that lead even that much more, but Percy finally stepping up to the plate, finally hitting a ball and finding 3 on top of it, clearing out that P5, going in, picking up the rear 10 seconds there. As it now goes back to P1, we got to look at the holds here in the middle. Whether or not the slaves really come through from the side of UNCW to stop things, or Old Dominion can just mow through and find a way to close this out.
Yeah, and Alpha gets a nice triple kill. That's going to push these players back into the spawn more. It's like what you said, this middle hold being the essentialness, but Nevermind is able to stop Alpha. You hear the glide bomb coming in, and that's going to be from Revan onto D-Tatty. But unfortunately, though, you still have Fatality up in the hill. You're going to be able to shift the lead for now, but it's coming down to the wire.
I had my eyes on Roach there for a second, looking for that flank play to try and find a couple players. But right now, a player who does even better. Revan already rushing on the side, able to find one, not able to follow through with that, but where's the backup from his teammates? Well, they're just now floating on the site, and they're not doing enough to really close out this game, because 20 seconds left on the clock. UNCW has turned things around. They now have a massive lead, only needing 7 seconds left. And with 15 left on the clock, holding things down is going to be D-Tatty, able to find one. The glide bomb to come through from Fatality, finding one as well. So that's going to be everybody pitching it as much as they can, and already setting up for P2. They only need 4 to close this out.
Oh, Percy's shots from the top. This has been a great one from him. You called it out earlier. This has been key. And there you go. They stop the players, and they win it. 250 to 239. It did not look like it was in UNCW's cards, but they did it. They brought it back.
Yeah, and most definitely that's the way things looked. I mean, we did not see Old Dominion do what they had to do. You saw how that last couple rounds where things got really close for Old Dominion hitting that 110 threshold. They didn't even find a third of the site in those next 3 sites. Meanwhile, it was just nothing but contention, denying points for UNCW, who was just that much more ahead of the curve. So going ahead, having a respectable end to this entire series, find themselves sitting at 3-1. We see UNCW coming out outstanding. So, I mean, I love the way they played that, able to go ahead and bring things back, saying, look, y'all may have beat us in that first hard point and a 3v4 there for a little while, but, I mean, when it comes down to 4v4s, we just want that extra player to slay out and give us our streaks.
You know, I should have called it, Mick. I should have just said for the series, man, because it was a 3-1 series. UNCW take it 3-1. But, you know, that's the name of the game, you know. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I should have bought Bitcoin in 2012, you know. I was like 11. It didn't matter, you know. But, hey, there you go. UNCW just absolutely coming in big and showing us that they are the 4v4 kings here.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and look at these stats from this last matchup to see exactly how we saw UNCW able to step things up. Whether or not it was a couple players or whether or not it was the entire team. And as it looks from the likes of it, it was the entire team. Everybody doing their due diligence, everybody able to go ahead and accumulate some time, but obviously going to be at the top of the board with the most hill time, the most kills, the most non-traded kills, and the highest streak, all from UNCW is going to be that man fatality, stepping things up and looking out freaking standing.
Yeah, just great to see out of these guys. Let's look at the roadmap that we had tonight, because it was a beautiful set of maps and definitely just some great upsets from the side of UNCW. We started out in Tuscan with Hardpoint, and it was a 3v4 victory, 250 to 218. Then after that, we hopped into Search and Destroy Berlin, where UNCW grabbed that momentum like a flag and raised it proudly. They won 6-5 in the round 11. Then in the control, they really showed their stamina and won 3-2. Then lastly, in the Gavutu Hardpoint, they were just outmaneuvering towards the end. You got to shout out Fatality for that one, and his teammates, and Percy as well, coming in big towards the end. That's what really solidified them the dub. Very close games. Could have gone any other Sunday, but, you know, just this day on this beautiful Tuesday night, it's going to be UNCW.
Yeah, most definitely. Be looking at Gavutu and the way they sat there and stood up. I mean, that's where the Seahawks really sat there, made themselves a home, saying, look, we're right here by the sea. This is our mascot. This is our place. This is our home turf, and we're going to step things up. Even though every single one of those series and every single one of those maps were extremely close, we sat there and saw somewhat of a, people are going to kill me for saying this word, a breakdown here for Old Dominion. I mean, having themselves a great start off the get-go, not really able to keep that same fire. I mean, we sat there and saw those first 3 rounds of Search and Destroy go their direction. We're like, ooh, we're going to see some momentum here. We're seeing them lighten up. I mean, we saw the kindle to the flames. We saw a little bit of the spark earlier, but now it's looking to get a little bit hot. But, I mean, we saw the Seahawks almost extinguish that instantaneously, able to answer 3 with their own and right past that point, with just answering things back and forth. The rest of the series always was extremely close, just coming out into their favor. So Old Dominion having to possibly go back to the series and look and figure out what exactly did we do wrong. Well, I can tell you that earlier, I mean, looking at Nevermind in that S&D, not really able to step things up, not looking as outstanding as we expected, with the rest of his team doing really all the heavy lifting. And then on Control, it was a lack of just awareness, map presence, the macro game. I mean, just too much focus on the micro, looking at a site, saying, let's run at it directly. And instead of making those exchanges, pushing up to the spawns through that B site, what will be P5 on Gavutu and Hardpoint, they just never touched that space in the map at all. Running right through the middle, allowing these players of the Seahawks to slay them out time in, time out, and making their presence a little bit too aware, as if they're trying to get cocky and say, here we are, shoot us. Well, UNCW is saying, sure, we can do that. That's a free dub. That's free lives. That's a defense for us. And that's a free win as well. And just the momentum at that point, the Seahawks winning more series points, sit there and say, we can just take it away with this.
Yeah, great stamina from the side of UNCW. They're going to be our winners tonight. We're going to be staying here on the cast. So if you enjoyed our beautiful voices and faces, I mean, look at Mick. Look at that beautiful hair and that beautiful face. Come on. I know you want to stick around. We're going to take this short intermission break. We'll get back to you in just a bit for this last matchup for the night, and we'll see you soon.